Funding for the production of Folks is made possible in part by the Friends of Louisiana Public Broadcasting.
Everybody says folks, just plain old folks. Everybody just people all over the world. Folks who live, folks got to give, folks got to care, ooh, folks got to share. Our world is small, so very small. What touches one of us, ooh, touches us all. To stay alive, just to survive, folks got to be in harmony. Everybody just folks, just plain old folks, just plain old folks. Everybody just folks, everybody just folks, just plain old folks, just plain old folks. Everybody just folks.
Hello and welcome to Folks. I'm Sharon Elizabeth Sexton, Folks producer. Tonight we start our second season, bringing you features and insights into Louisiana's diverse minority and special interest communities. Most of us usually consider ourselves some kind of minority or special interest. And even though we are all unique and special in our own individual ways, there are many experiences everybody shares regardless of race, religion, or politics. Voting is one American right we all share, but there are more than 700,000 Louisianians whose voices are not heard because they're not counted on the voting rolls. The problem of the unregistered voter is particularly alarming in the black community, where 36% of the population lives below the poverty level. A few months ago, a group of marchers set out on a venture of trying to register all who are eligible to vote. The statewide voter registration drive started early during the summer when the Louisiana Legislative Black Caucus and the state NAACP co-sponsored a march from Shreveport to Baton Rouge. For 16 days, a core group of marchers walked down the state, bringing media attention to the fact that there are more than 350,000 unregistered black voters in Louisiana. The idealistic goal of the march was to register at least 100,000 black voters during the summer. But according to the state of Louisiana Commissioner of Elections, blacks in the state increased their voting strength by less than 5,000 during the 3-month voter registration drive.
The march was designed to make the people aware that there is a problem in Louisiana, and I think we accomplished that. We had a 90-day period in which we were supposed to register. We had a goal of 100,000, which we didn't come anywhere close to reaching. It shows again that not only the students here at Southern University, but our leaders, black leaders all over the state, have a major responsibility to get out and do something about the apathy that exists in our community.
To thank the students that are present, and for those that are not here, I can only put my head down in shame, because in 1982 there's a definite need for black students on the campus of Southern University to participate in such event as this one.
19-year-old Cleo Fields is one marcher touched by the summer journey down the state. He, along with members of the Southern University Student Government Association and the Young Adults for Positive Action, organized a campus voter registration awareness day, complete with buses to take students to the registrar's office. But what he experienced is what many black political leaders have experienced on many occasions before.
You know, as I look back in my history books, and I see great leaders like Dr. Martin Luther King, one who have strived, died, and endangered his life to give me and you the right to vote. And still, when we have voters registration rallies such as this one, we still have a lack of student participation.
Cleo, were you at all disappointed about the turnout at today's rally?
Well, in a sense I was, because if you look at the present situation at Southern University and at blacks in general, there's a crisis. I mean, you look at Reaganomics, you look at student aid being cut, and I feel there's a definite need for students to take out time to register, not only register, but to vote. And I'm more or less disappointed to a great extent.
The students here at Southern University must take voting very, very seriously. I sit back before the program and I thought about the pep rally tonight and the football game Saturday and the dance tonight, and I can imagine the student population. We probably have to close the doors on the students. And it's a shame when we have students participating in social events and not worried about their future environment.
I think people are so disinterested now in their right to vote, mainly because of the economic conditions and all kind of other, I guess, oppression that black people might be facing right now. I guess when you register 2 or 3 people, you should be happy about it. But when you look at the fact that there are over 350,000 that we have to get, it can be a little bit disappointing.
The problem of the unregistered black voter came to the forefront when the 1980 census revealed that Louisiana's largest cities had a black population increase of at least 30%. The state's largest city, New Orleans, was already recognized as being more than 55% black. But the census proved 3 more cities, Shreveport, Monroe, and Alexandria, also had black populations fast approaching 50% or more.
There are some of us in this state who believe that we've been very grossly undercounted in the census. There are some of us who believe that black people could, in fact, represent very close to half of the total population in this state. And I say that because the 1980 census shows that Monroe, Louisiana is 49% black. 49% black, and the census admits that. Alexandria, Louisiana is 48% black. The census admits that. Shreveport is 42% black. New Orleans is already 55% black, and some of us believe that that number could go as high as 65 or 70% black. So when you look at the major metropolitan areas of this state and find that they are pretty much predominantly black, then that ought to tell us something. That ought to tell us that black people in this state represent a significant portion of the population of this state, and then we ought to be doing some things for ourselves. Today we are so apathetic about our whole situation that we're not doing anything. As we've moved around the state, we find that black people are not concerned enough to even do the one thing that they can do from a free standpoint, and that's vote. The only privilege that each American citizen has is the right to vote, and 350,000 black people right here in Louisiana do not even exercise that right. And I'm talking about those that haven't even taken the step to go down to the registrar's office and register, not to mention the over 40% that don't show up at the polls. You know, I believe that our numbers in Louisiana in terms of unregistered black people could be as high as 500,000. We already have 472,000 registered black people. Can you imagine what would happen in this state to the political system if black people in Louisiana were to begin to vote 1 million strong?
In the 60s, thousands of black people, including courageous students from this university, sacrificed their lives in some instances and generally suffered extraordinary hardship to secure our right to vote. That generation correctly recognized that the franchise must play an important role in generating fundamental social, economic, and political change. I believe that the dream of dramatic change envisioned by persons such as Stokely Carmichael, Dr. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and Roy Wilkins remains largely unfulfilled today. That dream remains unfulfilled largely because in all too many instances, we have neglected to register to vote. We have neglected to vote, and we have neglected to effectively and astutely exercise our voting rights.
Do you think that it'll ever catch on, that the message will ever get to those people who are so apathetic now?
Well, I'm optimistic because if you look at the situation now, I mean, it's getting worse and worse. And I don't know what it would take for our people to understand it. Maybe a bomb would have to drop this minute in order for us to understand the present situation.
What do you think about this whole voter registration effort?
Well, I think that, you know, most students, they should be registered to vote. It's their privilege and their right, and I think they should. Something they should do.
Okay, do you plan to register? I know you're on the spot now, but did you plan to register?
Yes, I did. I told my friends, and as soon as I make 18, I plan to register to vote.
Well, I sure hope that things do pick up because we do need a larger crowd to get out to elect the people that we want to be in office, to get the things that black people need to have done in their communities. And I hope they do turn out in large numbers.
I think that the purpose will be achieved, you know. They're going to get out and go and register and vote.
So you basically have faith behind the black students even though they didn't come out for the rally today?
Definitely.
What would make students come to something like this?
I guess an interest in learning why they should vote and what could they help if they were to vote, you know. What conditions could they change? Maybe that would bring them out.
I'm optimistic about the future because, I mean, there's no need to be pessimistic because if I look at the present situation, it's bad, and all I can do is project a better future.
And I would just like to say, students, please, today, catch the bus, go to the registrar's office, and register. Our freedom is our vote.
The message of the vote has not only been rallied about at Southern, it has also been taken door to door by many of the people who marched during the summer. Although they have the good of the community in mind, the efforts of the marchers to get unregistered voters on the rolls have been received with lukewarm appreciation by not only students, but the community as a whole.
The conditions that exist in the black community right now, when you're talking about unemployment, 65% among black youth, 18% among black males. When you're talking about the housing conditions that we have in the black community, the educational problems that we're having, all of these things have caused, I believe, a type of apathy in the black community that it will require what I would call a systematic approach to addressing the problem. And the systematic approach is actually identifying what resources are there to address this problem, tailing those resources or linking them to the need.
We've gone out into several communities as we've identified by the 1980 census, those communities who borderline being predominantly black or have sizable black populations. We've chosen two communities, one Monroe and the other Alexandria. Alexandria has a 48% black population according to the 80 census, and Monroe has a 49% black population. We've seen that our march efforts were great in terms of notifying or informing the public that we have a serious problem with the unregistered black person in the state. And now we're just trying to go back to the drawing board to see how we can really get out there and get people registered.
People are apathetic. I have seen conditions that were not favorable. But what we're doing is, in addition to getting people registered, I'm basically concerned with the education aspect. Oftentimes we have problems and we don't ever think that there's a solution. What I said to these people, and they've been pretty receptive of it, is that there is a solution. That solution would be to register to vote. That's the bottom line.
A registered voter?
No, I'm sure not.
Not a registered voter?
Not a registered voter.
All right, we're going to have to take you down there and get you registered then.
That's right.
All right. You ready to do that?
No, I have to go to work out of dinner on the farm.
Okay, when can we come back by here and get
about tomorrow. But tomorrow's
no,
open.
it's open on during the weekday.
During the week, about Thursday, I think. It'll be out finished Thursday.
All right.
Yeah.
How long you been living out this way?
All my life.
You don't want to tell me how long that is.
62.
62? 62 years old.
62 years
All
old.
right. You never voted?
Never voted.
Never voted in 62 years.
From a younger point of view, we say I'm still in high school. And you go out and you go in places and you see people living in shotgun houses with just a bed and a sofa. And you see kids on the street with ragged clothes. And you ask yourself, you know, why are they like this? And then if you go in and you'd ask the parents, are you a registered voter? they look at you as if you were growing hair in your eyes. I mean, they just really don't care. And when you try and tell them about it, they, well, I have this to do, I have that to do, or I don't have a way. And people now make up too many reasons for why they don't vote, why they can't vote, and why they can't go register.
Why don't you go and take care of that registration while you're here? You'll be here long enough to vote while you're here. This your home anyway.
Yeah, I mean, what y'all voting for?
We want you to register and vote each time. Just, vote for the candidate of your choice. We're not out here really trying to get somebody pushing a particular candidate.
Not pushing nobody. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
See, right now,
but I mean, what you want to sign your name or what you want to do?
We want to get your name and.
Well, Harry Stevens.
We learned that you can't expect to go in one day and motivate people to come out of that house and go get registered. There has to be legwork done. People in the local communities have to get involved. The bottom line is, until we get ministers in this state who follow the lead of people like Dr. Jemison and begin to talk about voter registration every Sunday in church, until we get school principals, until we get college presidents to begin to do the same kind of thing, and people in their everyday life to be as concerned as this small group of people are here, then we can begin to make some headway. When you look at a comparison of the numbers of people that we've registered as a small group, I think it's tremendous. And I haven't gotten the feeling that some of us have in terms of being that disappointed, because to some extent I'm a little bit older, and I see progress. I see progress every time we go out. So that tells me that the more we go out and the more people we get involved in this whole effort, the more people we're going to register.
So I don't feel bad, because when I come back here, I'm surrounded by, optimistic people. The group itself and the march itself is very optimistic, and I think it's a good group. And when I come back home, and this is my home, I'm speaking in terms of the group, everybody's, let's go at it again. No one is ready to throw in the towel.
I really don't feel bad when I'm out there going door to door and I get a person to tell me, hey, look, I don't want to vote and I'm never going to vote. Because I understand that that person was not, just born and come here with that belief. It's a result of a prolonged period of time of oppression, not having jobs, looking at your children not being able to have equal opportunities in life, and looking at mom and dad staying in housing that are below standard, and these type of things. It creates a type of frustration, and it begins to break down. And that breakdown not only goes with that generation, but those children that are exposed to that same type of atmosphere, and it's a loop. And what we're trying to do now is nothing more than break that loop.
Our success can be immediately achieved if we tell the people the truth about themselves. And I know I've said that very harshly, but it's reality, okay? You don't care about yourself, you don't care about your grandchild, you're not involved in the system, and therefore you must like what the system is doing to you. If you don't stand up and speak out, you have a choice. We're doing our part, and I think that we can be ultimately successful if we tell them just how much they don't care about themselves and just how much they don't count.
To some extent, I agree with the concept that she's talking about, but again, as Don has said and as all of us have indicated, I think our people, it goes far beyond that. Our people have been oppressed for so long that, it's not hard for us to understand why a person said, I just don't want to vote no more. I don't want to register to vote. It's not going to make a difference. In some cases, you get into an argument about, okay, I've seen black people become elected officials, and that hadn't changed the system. They point to other examples in our society which to them should have been indicators that have not worked. So they're just down. I can't see taking a bat and beating a down person. I think we've got to come up and try to put some life into our own people by positive methods.
I think as our numbers grow, the politicians will pay very close attention to that and become more receptive to us as a people.
As the marchers continue their crusade of getting people registered to vote, there are others who are plotting on how they can buy those votes for their own political gain. In the little town of Parks, Louisiana, a federal court suit has been filed against most of the city officials for alleged vote buying. Folks reporter Monica Pierre says that the problem in Parks isn't getting people to register to vote, but rather how much is a vote worth.
This is St. Martin Parish. Many of the towns here are small, usually not much going on. But in the town of Parks, there's an unusual case going on. One man has decided to file a federal suit naming the mayor, the mayor's wife, other city officials, and others. He says it's a case of just how many votes one man's money can buy.
This particular case began a few months ago with the Parks mayoral election. The race pitted incumbent Mayor Earl Guidros against black challenger Francis Ebo. When all the votes were tallied on May 15th, Guidros was the winner with 66 votes. But the loser, Mr. Ebo, felt there was something unusual going on in the election, and that's where this story begins.
We're seeing some irregularities and we're seeing some wrongdoing, and we thought it was time that at least we make somebody make a move to see that some of that stuff be cut down or perhaps eradicated altogether.
We're alleging that there were irregularities with the election, particularly with respect to vote buying. It is alleged that ballots, absentee ballots, were bought from people in St. Martin Parish, and that a price was paid for those ballots, and that's in violation both of state and federal laws. In addition, there were other irregularities. Certain challenges were not accepted on the day of the election for walk-in voters, and certain challenges were not accepted with respect to the absentee ballots cast. In all, we think that there were sufficient irregularities to have the federal court declare this election invalid, and to either declare Mr. Ebo winner or to declare that another election has to be held. This is not, as you know, a criminal case. It's a civil case. Mr. Ebo and his son, speaking for themselves and for other minority residents of the city of Parks and St. Martin Parish, are declaring that the election was taken away from Mr. Ebo, and his civil rights and their civil rights were violated because vote buying did occur during that election, and that is in contravention of the laws of the state of Louisiana and of the laws of the federal government.
Do you view the alleged vote buying as a conspiracy against Mr. Ebo?
We have alleged that it is a conspiracy, and we think that there were a number of people involved, and it's up to us now to go out and prove that.
Mr. Ebo says he was suspicious even before Election Day.
I became aware of the irregularities, really, the Sunday prior to absentee officially opening. Found out about some schemes they had for taking people in to register absentee.
I was approached by the chief deputy for St. Martin Parish Sheriff. He offered $50 a person for each person that I was able to bring in to vote absentee, and he was mostly concerned with black voters. And he again approached me the Monday that absentee voting was to start, and he wanted to know if I could come in and bring some people, bring as many black voters as I could, because he felt that the mayor that was already in office should stay there.
Mr. Ebo's court suit claims that not only were Parks residents approached about selling their votes, non-residents were also approached and encouraged to vote absentee.
He asked me if I was a registered voter of St. Martinville. I told him yes, but I had moved to Bow Bridge. And he asked me if I was going to be in town the weekend we had to vote. I told him yes, but he told me that I could have voted absentee. I asked him why. He didn't tell me why, and then he told me just go ahead on and vote absentee. When I got through voting, he told me to put it face down. I put it face down. He slid it in the envelope, and he sealed it himself.
So you never sealed your own envelope?
No, I didn't seal my own envelope.
You didn't find that unusual?
No, because I don't usually seal You know, I never been an absentee voter before, so I didn't know what was going on.
The election laws in Louisiana are not very good when it comes to declaring elections invalid because there was may have been some racial discrimination involved in the election, or something that was in violation of a person's civil rights based on race. So that the laws are not very good. It is very difficult to get an election thrown out. It's very difficult to have another election declared under those laws. But we do have a remedy in federal court, which we may independently pursue, and the judge just told us that, in essence. We can pursue a civil rights violation, a federal civil rights violation in federal court, and move to get what we want, which is a new election, or have Mr. Ebo declared winner in the Parks election.
We attempted to contact Deputy Chief Roy Bonvillain several times, but our calls were never returned. We even stopped by the mayor's house, but no one would answer the door. We also tried to talk with the two blacks named in the suit as taking the payoffs, but they refused to comment when we approached them about the alleged vote buying.
On the Ebo case, the alleged vote buying, and I was wondering if you'd be willing to talk to us about it.
I can't really affiliate with none of this.
What does a case like the Ebo case do to a town like Parks? Parks is like many towns in southwest Louisiana, small and quiet. Half of the town's residents are black, with everyone pretty much living around the corner from one another. Things usually stay the same from year to year. In fact, Mayor Guidros has been mayor for 24 years. But Mr. Ebo and others think this case will tell the people of Louisiana vote buying won't lead to anything but trouble.
Myself and many others, we feel it's a part of the culture. It's been going on for years. Even before the black were involved in voting, the buying of vote was going on, because personally I can remember the time when the white were going on along with voting. They were going to different houses, giving different houses, giving somebody like suppers and say, invite other friends and whatnot, we paid them so much to come vote tomorrow or the next day. I think up until now, after Mr. Ebo got deeply involved, I think that make most of them see that voting power meant a whole lot to them. But until then, I don't think they realized what was going on.
The ballot is the most powerful weapon you have. And $50 or whatever amount of dollars you are offered for your ballot is not worth it. You can get better results by voting your council. And it should tell them that. And it should tell blacks all over that you're not for sale.
I think it'll tell all of us something. It'll tell the black people of Parks, it'll tell the white people of Parks, it'll tell all of the people in St. Martin Parish, and people indeed in southern Louisiana, but primarily St. Martin Parish. It'll tell them that vote buying is not something that you do. It's something of the past. It doesn't serve anybody's interest. It's immoral. It's illegal. It will tell the white community that one should not go out to buy votes, generally. It will tell the black community that one should not accept money to have your vote bought. And we think that will have a chilling effect, obviously, on the practice, which occurs, we understand, frequently in St. Martin Parish and in other parishes in South Louisiana. And we think it will do something also for the plaintiffs themselves, Mr. Ebo and Michael Ebo. It will perhaps bring about a new election or have Mr. Ebo declared winner.
Attempts were made to have the defendants appear before camera, however, we were unsuccessful. Attorney J. Burton Willis said that he did not want the case tried in the media. On September 21st, oral arguments were submitted to federal judge John Shaw. Attorney Burton Willis had tried to get the case dismissed, saying that it should have been filed in state court. However, Judge Shaw did not rule for a dismissal, and now both sides are preparing to appear in court. For Folks, I'm Monica Pierre.
Again, we have come to the end of our half hour. I hope that if you are not a registered voter now, you will be when we join you again next week. If you are a registered voter, keep your American right priceless by not selling your vote or yourself short. Good night, and we'll see you again next week on Folks.
Everybody's just
Funding for the production of Folks is made possible in part by the Friends of Louisiana Public Broadcasting.